We've seen numerous deadly viruses being released from a laboratory and killing millions of people all over the world in countless TV shows and films. Resident Evil, World War Z, Train to Busan, Children of Men, Outbreak, and The Walking Dead are some examples that have established this genre as a fan favorite among horror fans. However, after the outbreak of the COVID-19 epidemic, this genre doesn't feel like a fantasy anymore, but also strengthens the fear of virus epidemics as a possible reality for the world. Today, we'll be talking about one such virus from the movie The Crippen Virus, which was prominently featured in the 2007 film I Am Legend. Considered one of the most influential virus pandemic movies of all time, thanks to Will Smith's superb acting performance and director Francis Lawrence world building, the film showcases a survivor's life after the virus breakout. It also showcases the tragic effects of the deadly virus on humans and how they react to it in different ways. So without any further delay, let's get into the video and learn as much as possible about this deadly virus before they release the sequel. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Symptoms and tissue samples confirm subject is infected with KV.
What is this Crippen virus? Like any other virus, Crippen was a genetically engineered virus from the existing measles virus by a doctor named Alice Crippen as a cure for cancer. Even though in the beginning, the virus proved to cure cancer cells with a 100% success rate. Eventually, the virus mutated and started to kill its host by developing a rabies kind of disease in them. When the test results were being put under study, the virus later mutated into a deadly strain of measles with a 90% kill rate among its hosts. Even though the exact reason for the virus escaping from the lab is still a mystery, it made its way out of the lab in 2009. After being released into the natural environment, the virus again metamorphosed into two deadly strain variants that surfaced among humans through air and contact. While the air strain spread through the air, the contact strain spread through blood and saliva. Once the KV virus finds a human host, within 48 hours of the infection, the host body will suffer high fever, bleeding from the eyes, and vomiting. After the primal stage of 48 hours, the virus will generate an undying thirst for bloodlust inside the human host, which will force them to manifest the bloodthirsty monster inside of them and force themselves to attack uninfected humans. However, due to the deadly effects of the virus, most of the hosts lost their lives before they could showcase these monstrous symptoms. The remaining, who managed to withstand the fatal symptoms, were called Dark Seekers by the remaining people. It's also notable that the virus not only generates the thirst for blood among its hosts, it also boosts their body with a significant amount of adrenaline and enhances the host's strength, agility, blood flow, and body temperature by speeding up the metabolism in their body. It's also speculated that even though the virus nearly destroyed the entire population on Earth, 12 million out of its 6.8 billion people are naturally immune to the virus, though the Dark Seekers can kill them with their poisonous bites, along with the virus not being effective in the case of wild animals like lions, deers, birds, and other animals except dogs, who are surprisingly immune to the airborne strain, but not the contact strain. I Am Legend Awakening. As we know, there's a sequel being planned for the original film, with Will Smith reprising his role from the first film and Michael B. Jordan joining him in the sequel. I want to tell you that this might not be the only standalone sequel to the film. Before the release of the 2007 film, the makers already released a graphic novel consisting of 5 different stories that showcase the devastation caused by the KV virus around the world. The graphic novel was later released as animated stories with the DVD collection of the movie. To understand the impact of the virus, let's decode all those 5 stories one by one. Losing Voice, Ethan's story. During the initial stages of the outbreak, Doe and his wife drive through the busy streets of Miami, Florida. Their initial plan is to drop off their kids, Luke and Ethan, at their school and reach their respective offices. But on the way, Doug gets a reminder that he must get to his office a bit earlier than usual due to a meeting. Doug asks his wife to get the car on the freeway due to the traffic. He also tries to check the radio for any notices regarding news related to traffic, but he's disappointed because everyone seems to be talking about the newly spreading virus and the evacuation of people. Hearing this, Doug's wife asks him not to talk about the virus in front of their kids. Ethan, their eldest son, who seems socially aware of the virus, tells his parents that they don't need to hide things from them because they're already aware of the virus breakout and how everyone in the city is suddenly getting sick. After some time, Ethan sees a naked lady running down the street, but when he tries to tell his mom about the incident, she ignores him, thinking he's just trying to play a prank on her. After driving a few miles on the freeway, the family find themselves stuck in traffic again. The mother decides to take a different route the moment she finds a way to step off the highway. Doug decides to turn on the radio to see if there's any information regarding the traffic, but again, he hears nothing but an emergency broadcast from the government, declaring a national emergency in the US. Tired of being stuck in the car the whole day, Ethan's mom asks them to roll down the windows so they can at least inspect the situation better. Seeing the crowd running around crying for help, Ethan realizes something is wrong with the people and asks everyone to roll up the window instead. Suddenly, both parents discover that their biggest fear has come true. The virus has finally shown its actual colors by affecting several humans. Doug, the man of the family, decides to look at the event and asks his family to remain seated in the car. He takes his golf club with him and starts inspecting the situation. Seeing the grievous situation outside, Luke, the younger brother, decides to quit his video game and asks his brother if they'll survive this catastrophe. Being the older brother, Ethan tries to calm him down and tells him not to worry. Just then, he sees someone coming towards his mom from behind. Before he could even scream at his mother, a bunch of virus-infected monsters drag his mom out of the car. Both the brothers shout aloud for their mother, but at the same time, they see their dad being smashed into their car by some Darkseekers. The brothers try to run from those bloodthirsty monsters and hide under a truck. The Darkseekers follow them and drag Luke along with them, leaving Ethan alone as the sole survivor of the story. Ethan, who hides in the foliage after losing his entire family in the hands of the monsters, is eventually rescued by a team. The team tries to question him, but shocked by his family's death, Ethan doesn't answer. Death as a gift. In Hong Kong, China, a beautiful girl named Jinghua Xu can be seen writing a letter at her apartment. Beside her table, you can see portraits of her lost family. Her mother, brother, and dad had all died from the KV virus. After writing the letter, the girl starts walking down the stairs of the building. She opens the main door and walks out of the building alone. Being alone on the streets of the once busiest city makes her truly alone. There's no one to see her. The town has lost all its inhabitants at the hands of the deadly virus. There's no one except her on the streets of Hong Kong besides the birds. She shouts at the deserted roads that she's immune to this deadly virus, but there's no one left to hear her cry. She then walks up to a bridge and stands still momentarily before jumping off. She kills herself, revealing the letter which read, "She is the last surviving person in Hong Kong, along with the infected." Isolation. During this stage of the KV virus breakout, a prisoner named John Edward Lord is left out all alone inside the USA's most secure prison, ADX Florence, Colorado. Unbeknownst to John, the entire prison has been evacuated, leaving him to die there all by himself without any food or water. We see that 72 hours before the incident, the warden planned it all and deliberately left him alone without disclosing why he did that to him. The warden filled multiple buses with the other inmates and evacuated the prison. John, who's been described as a terrorist by the warden, has no idea why the entire prison has been evacuated except him. Without any food or water, he cries for mercy, but finds no one but loneliness inside his cell. He realizes that although he can survive for days without food, survival without any water will kill him very quickly. Back at a military base in Virginia, the reports of a missing caravan full of prisoners, along with the warden, can be heard surfacing from the radio. After hearing this news, the commander gives an order to shut down the entire power grid of Colorado. Back at the prison, a starved and dehydrated John finds a way out after the power failure. He leaves his cell and finds himself all alone in the deserted prison. John soon enters the supply room, drinks water, and eats food. He also uses the first aid to fix his wounds. Then, John starts stocking up all the remaining ammunition for his future endeavors. He thinks of starting a new life in the wilderness and finishing his autobiography. He steals an SUV from the parking lot and drives out of the prison. While driving the SUV through the middle of the desert, John comes across a bunch of buses in wrecked condition. He realizes that the buses that fled from the ADX Florence have been destroyed, and the inmates, along with the warden, have been killed by some vicious creatures before reaching their destination. Unaware of the virus breakout, John sets foot out of his SUV to inspect the situation. Suddenly, he comes across a deadly creature, a Darkseeker, prompting him to return to the SUV immediately. While driving back, he realizes that the world has been infected with a fatal virus. We also get a chance to peek into his past, where, due to the increasing corruption among the politicians, he was put in prison and treated as a terrorist for his acts of patriotism. As John re-enters through the prison gates, he realizes that he needs to fight for his country by destroying the Darkseekers and helping his country rise again from the darkness. Sacrificing the few for the many. Somewhere in America, a refugee camp has been set up for the treatment of KV-infected patients. As it was in the early stages of the pandemic, the news of this secret base camp wasn't known to most people. But somehow, a young boy and girl came across the secret quarantine center and are eager to get a peek inside the camp. While they secretly watch everything, hiding themselves from the crowd behind a bush, a group of soldiers dressed like NBC suits jumps out of the truck and starts firing bullets at the camp, killing both the patients and doctors alike. After killing the entire crowd, they throw a series of grenades to destroy their existence. As their procession leaves the place, the children hiding in the bush find themselves traumatized by the mass killing. As the story is about to end, we see the girl wiping her bloody tears, suggesting that the virus now infects her. Fighting chance. As a policeman drives through the streets of New York City, he gets assigned to pick up the body of a girl from an alley and burn it for good. Before he could reach the girl, we see the police officer putting an entry regarding the case into his note. When he reaches the location, he finds the decaying body of a beautiful girl, who he guessed should be burned before she could turn into a Darkseeker. He picks her up and puts her inside the trunk of his police car. Before he can drive to a safe place before dark, he puts himself on the ground, on the spot of the dead girl, and tries to feel her pain before she dies at the hands of those demonic creatures. He then pulls himself together and drives off the road to burn her body, and reminds himself of living among these terrible creatures in fear for eternity till he finds hope. Marvelous verdict, as the movie depicts the noble thought behind the origin of the Crippen virus to eradicate cancer, which unfortunately finds its way out of the lab and turns into a deadly epidemic, acts as a reminder for us that in the end, not everything turns out as we plan. The virus, which acts quite like a double-edged sword for humanity, mutates and spreads throughout the world with the help of its human hosts, and in the end, it becomes the sole reason for its destruction. The virus, which also acts as a cautionary tale for humanity, is like some recent outbreaks of viruses in the real world, like the H1N1 and the COVID-19 virus that nearly turned the world into a graveyard a few years back. The 2007 movie shows the antivirus Compound 6 for the KV virus, developed by the protagonist Dr. Robert Neville. Due to limited resources and the availability of technology for mass production, he can only create it for a small population. Though it's the only remaining antidote that can cure an infected person, it can only cure the infected humans at their initial stage. Still, it cannot cure the people who have already lost themselves in the darkness. Even after all these hurdles, every story in the graphic novel depicts a ray of hope for the survivors. Be it Ethan, who loses his entire family in the hands of the Darkseekers, or John, the prisoner, who turns out to be patriotic and wants to save his country from the epidemic. All 5 stories portray hope as the new way of survival for humanity. And why not? Because it's the only thing that teaches us the coping mechanism and strengthens us when facing challenges. Hope makes us survivors by giving us the courage to endure any problem in the world. So what do you think of our take on the Crippen virus? Before saying adios, I'd like to request you like, subscribe, and share our video for more exciting content. And don't forget to let us know your valuable opinions by writing your thoughts in the comment section down below.